on-demand version of Marketing Showcase Online for September. This is the recording for Ali Williams' presentation. He's the creative director and founder of Mark Making. Ali today is speaking about magnetic brands and the power of being more human. This recording is about 30 minutes in length, so grab a coffee and enjoy.
Hello again, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm here to talk about magnetic brands and the power of being more human. I hope you'll find it an interesting chat. In the live session, we were offering, if anyone's interested, a 1-hour consultation to discuss your individual business's brand strategy. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, do drop me a line. Before I get into the meat of the presentation, very quickly, an introduction to myself and Mark Making. We've been going 25 years, started in 1995. Myself and fellow marketing visual arts graduate Steve Turner left university, decent enough portfolio, but zero commercial experience and bank balances to match. But we put the graft in, and fast forward 25 years, just prior to lockdown, we were absolutely thrilled to pick up Marketing Partner of the Year at the British Bank Awards. And we've also now for a number of years been in campaigns, Best Places to Work, which is also super important to us. What do we do? I'd probably sum it up as brand strategy and creative. Who do we do it for? Well, we tend to work with organizations who are trying to disrupt the status quo in some way, whatever their particular field is. They're trying to do something differently. We talk about them as being pioneering organizations. Hopefully there's one or two of you watching now who might be able to relate to that. And we help those organizations build extraordinary and enduring appeal. And that's the essence of brand magnetism. So we talk about making brands magnetic. We believe very much in business as a force for good. And over the past 2.5 decades, we've worked with countless businesses across multiple and diverse sectors. It's what we've learned from them and their successes that we've been able to develop the idea of brand magnetism from. So that probably is enough about us. I promised I'd keep it very brief. As I say, if you'd like to find out more, just drop me a line and I'd be happy to have a chat. So let's get into the core part of today's presentation. Crikey, we are living in crazy times. What a year it's been. Obviously it's not over yet, so who knows what's still to happen. But against a backdrop of more chaos, a bit of disillusionment and negativity, there has also been more than a glimmer of hope, more than a glimmer of good. Truly amazing and wonderful things are happening. We're witnessing, generally speaking, people being kinder towards one another, nicer, more supportive. We're seeing more people putting others before themselves, kind of unusual in a selfie-obsessed culture. We're seeing people going out of their way to help others, communities, society as a whole. We're seeing people come together and unite in the face of collective adversity. Some of those stories obviously make the news, like the absolutely awe-inspiring Captain Tom here, but actually there are those thousands, tens of thousands of stories that we encounter on a personal and day-to-day level that give us real reason to be more positive and more upbeat about the future. And what we're seeing is it's not just happening at a personal level, it's happening very much with businesses too. We're seeing businesses put people before profit. We're seeing them make sacrifices for the greater good. Countless examples, particularly in the early part of lockdown, of businesses rallying, doing things differently, pivoting their operations in order to support those most in need. Obviously, there was a huge swell of support for NHS, and we saw all sorts of businesses putting the effort in to contribute to that. And not just big businesses either, businesses of all shapes and sizes, countless businesses that we won't have heard of, all making that difference. And collectively, we're seeing the corporate face of business, if you like, replaced by a more human one. And we're seeing businesses acknowledged and applauded, not on the basis necessarily of what they do, but how they behave and what's behind those behaviors. So in the light of what can only be described as enormous collective challenges, it's almost as though we're witnessing some kind of giant science experiment in which we're being reminded that the way that we in fact engage with one another and relate and connect with each other isn't based on rational decision making. It's emotionally based. We're recognizing that actually, if we want to get through to people, we do need to talk to the heart, because often the head just ain't listening. We know that we're seeing that emotion trumps logic, and we're forgetting this. 2020 has been a powerful reminder of the value of being more human, and we're seeing more and more businesses waking up to this, recognizing that in order to survive now and thrive in the future, they have to recognize the value of being more human. And it's that very idea that sits at the core of brand magnetism. And brand magnetism is essentially a perspective we've developed on long-term business success that we've been able to apply to our clients to enable them to thrive and survive in more challenging times. So what exactly is a magnetic brand? We can break it down very, very simply. Magnetic brands possess an extraordinary level of attraction, loyalty, trust, and resilience. As a result, they consistently outperform their competition. Where does that come from? Where does that trust come from? That enduring appeal? The source of it are certain common and shared characteristics that are common to all magnetic brands. These characteristics are a mix of human qualities and behaviors. So this is where it starts to get interesting. They're essentially unrelated or not directly related to what the business does. And as such, they are characteristics that can be practiced, they can be developed, and they can be improved. The exciting bit then, of course, is that any brand therefore has the potential to become magnetic. Brand magnetism is within the grasp of any brand with a strong product proposition. And it's this thinking that's helped drive the success of many of our clients. So what exactly are those characteristics? What are those human characteristics and qualities? We refer to them as the muscles of magnetism. We've identified 4 ever-present characteristics. The reason they are the muscles of magnetism, as you may have guessed, is that they, as I've already mentioned, they can be honed and they can be developed. They can also be flexed individually or collectively as necessary. And we're a creative agency, and we also love an alliteration. So hence the muscles of magnetism. So let's take them in turn. The first muscle of magnetism, purpose. Magnetic brands stand for something. They are crystal clear in what they believe. They have a raison d'etre that transcends profit making, and it doesn't have to be super worthy. That's often a misconception around the concept of purpose. Being purposeful is about actually having a sense of direction that in some way makes lives better, even at the smallest level. Polarization, much like the physical properties of magnets, comes with the territory as well. So magnetic brands, particularly the ones that have a very, very strong sense of purpose, naturally not everybody will agree and be aligned with those values, but those that are, they demonstrate immense loyalty and have a tendency to become advocates for your brand. So let's look at a couple of examples. I've started with a global one, perhaps quite obvious, but I think it nicely illustrates the polarization aspect. Nike, right from the outset, in the early days of the sportswear or sports shoes, it was primarily at that point, wars between Adidas and Nike. Adidas were very much on the product side of things. This is the rubber we use, this is the leather we use, etc. Nike early on recognized the value in taking a more human and personal approach. They focus more on the people, on the athletes, and less so on the features, if you like, of their products. Their mission currently, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. It's inspiring, it's inclusive. By the same token, they're never afraid to put themselves out there. If they feel strongly about something, they will make a stand. And that's a great example of how purpose can polarize. When they used Colin Kaepernick to head up their campaigns after Colin himself made a stand, dropped to one knee during the major NFL game, that divided their audience. But that's what magnetic brands do. They have a sense of purpose, and that has the potential to divide. Brands that you won't have heard of, but I think illustrate the point really well. A couple of brands that we work with: Clearview Traffic Group. They've been, well, when we started working with them, they've been in operation for about 40 years. They specialize in road traffic counting and classification. They have the technology to monitor the volume of traffic on roads. They're a B2B organization. They work with local authorities, government groups, etc. They also have road safety products, solar paneled road lights, a kind of newer version of cat's eyes, if you like. And to their credit, they had a vision, they had a documented vision, but when you look at it, it was all about it's all about the detail, it's all about the product. It's very jargon heavy in that respect. They refer to leveraging existing core competencies, delivering minimally invasive real-time solutions, etc., etc. Difficult for most people to really understand. By the time we'd finished with them, they created a far simpler sense of purpose. They make journeys work. Renamed to Clearview Intelligence because it was about gathering intelligence, interpreting that intelligence, implementing that intelligence, and it became about making journeys work. In a very similar vein, another client of ours, Preservica, they specialize in digital file preservation. All that means is that they have the technology to ensure that a file's integrity now is still retained 10 years from now, irrespective of whether or not the applications in which that file exists are still available. So you may have a file now that's in Excel. Excel perhaps doesn't exist in 10 years from now, but they have the technology to ensure that that file can migrate from all subsequent platforms and still retain its integrity in the future. Super clever, effectively market leading in terms of technology, but big ambitions to break into new markets. We work with them. By the end of that period, we'd identify a much clearer and bigger purpose that everybody could get behind, whether that's staff, whether that's prospective employees, whether that's prospective clients. So actually we moved from talking about the technology to talking about the implications of that technology. And actually it's an incredible cause to acknowledge that the world's memory, if you like, cultural, economic, political, is all at risk, and Preservica are there to protect it, is a hugely powerful message. Both superb products in their own rights. In both cases, both Preservica and Clearview Traffic lost sight of the implications, the human implications of what they do. So what was the result of bringing clarity and focus to their purpose? Their teams were re-energized, engagement was approved across the board, clients, prospects, employees, and most significantly, particularly for Preservica, who were very much engaged in a battle for talent. You know, where do they get the best coders from, the best software engineers? They witnessed an increased number of applicants and higher caliber applicants. So that's purpose, which takes on nicely to the second muscle of magnetism, imagination. Magnetic brands flex the human superpower of creativity. They do it to powerful effect as well, and they do it in different levels and different ways, all of which increase their attraction and the enduring nature of that attraction. Think about how the likes of Airbnb reimagined an entire industry. You know, that takes serious creative thought, but it's the application of that thought that drives real change. At the other end of the scale, imagination can be used to create powerful moments in people's minds, and that can be enough to create distinctiveness, to create remarkability and be memorable. I love this. It's a great example. I'd be amazed if any of you recognize this as a hotel, but it's called the Magic Hotel in Florida, one of multiple thousand hotels in Florida. What's special about this hotel? Well, consistently, they're in amongst the top 3 or 4 listed hotels on TripAdvisor. How do they do it? Where is the magic, you might ask? A modest pool, not particularly impressive views, but they've thought about, they come up with something that cuts through the noise, that makes them remarkable, that people remember. And it's as simple as this. They have a popsicle hotline. All you need to do, or your children need to do, is pick up the red phone next to the pool. Immediately someone will answer, put in your order for your ice lolly. A couple of minutes later, somebody turns up dressed smartly with a silver platter. There's your ice lolly. A very simple moment created, but a moment that endures, a moment that's remembered. And the knock-on effect is a hotel, a modest-looking hotel, consistently retains a top ranking on something like TripAdvisor. So that's using imagination at a smaller scale. What about the application of imagination to a particular discipline? So let's take brand identity. This is a client of ours, Brook Street DeRoche. They're commercial property lawyers. When they first engaged with us, this was the essence of their visual identity. It is only their logo. They didn't have a lot beyond that. They were keen to explore how they could create more cut-through, greater attraction, greater appeal by being able to communicate some of their key attributes. Those attributes were the strength of the relationships that they were able to build with their clients, a level of personal and human touch that they were able to provide, and they wanted a way of bringing that to life. We developed an identity that at its heart had a very simple mark. The form of this mark lent itself more to a reflection of commercial property. There's a sense of solidity about it, but the real creativity came in how this mark could be used. So whilst it could be used to as a core logo to introduce their name, it also had incredible flexibility. As long as it was 4 lines, a quatrain as it's technically known, the logo could be adapted to say different things in different contexts, and so in turn demonstrate the human qualities that they were so keen to project. It's a creative idea that runs through everything, and it's one that they can run with themselves, and they certainly did that too. To this day, actually the managing partner has now retired, but I still receive emails in a quatrain format, which I'm delighted because it shows that they're fully on board with it. However, it does present my own creative challenge in responding in a similar way, but I always try my best to do that. So whatever industry you're in, devote some serious thought to the magnetism muscle of imagination. Could you be flexing it? Could you be creating moments? Could you be applying it to your campaigns? Could you be applying it to your identity work? But don't be afraid to flex your imagination. The third muscle of magnetism, generosity. Magnetic brands by nature are generous, and that's not just about financial giving, it's about being generously spirited, or giving freely without expectation of something directly back in return. Those brands, they give a lot of themselves, they give a lot of their time, their effort, their thinking, their resources. They give other people, as a result, they give others reasons to feel good about themselves, and that makes them attractive in themselves. There's a halo effect. If you engage with a company that's perceived to be doing good, being kind, there is a halo effect. You feel yourself that you are in turn somehow being generous, somehow being good. So that has a strong pull effect. There are tons of examples. I've shown a few earlier in this deck. I picked Brewdog because I think they're relentless with respect to their generosity. They pivoted their alcohol production operations at the height of COVID to produce sanitizer rather than beer, but they're not just doing it to be seen. They're constantly finding ways to support other causes, to be generous, to give in a way that using whatever they have at their disposal to do that. This more recently, the Street Dog campaign, inspired by Ricky Gervais' passion for rehoming street dogs. They felt that they could support, they got involved with the All Dogs Matter campaign and started using their cans to promote lost and street dogs. So Plenty of businesses do it at their own levels in their own unique ways, but there are opportunities also to take part in movements. In a way, it simplifies it, it makes it easier, but you know that actually you're contributing in a really effective and powerful way. 1% for the planet is a good example of such a movement. Businesses that subscribe to that effectively donate the 1% or the equivalent of 1%. It is possible to do a percentage of that percent as voluntary work, but effectively you're giving 1%. That goes to environmentally sound organisations around the world. And however generosity is manifested, it is essentially the direction of travel for magnetic brands, and it is undoubtedly powerful in increasing levels of appeal and attraction, not least for employees and future employees. I think we've probably all witnessed this. Today's workforce, and we're probably among those as well, expect more. A fair salary, decent benefits, in isolation no longer cut it. We're seeing more and more individuals, employees wanting to work for business that in some way are fundamentally doing good. Magnetic brands recognize this, that their businesses need to be making a positive difference as well as money. So it is worth asking yourselves, can we be more generous? How can our organization be more generous? The fourth and final muscle arguably underpins it, the foundation for all of this. If it doesn't exist, nothing else really has the same value. That's authenticity. We are drawn as human beings to people who are genuine. Equally, we are turned away, or in the spirit of magnets, repelled by those who aren't. And the same applies for brands. If brands need to walk the talk, there isn't a place for hollow words. Anything that is claimed or promised needs to be substantiated and evidenced. It's not just about storytelling, this is about story doing. Good example, in fact, Patagonia, a personal favorite brand of mine, really an inspiration for the idea of magnetic brands. Tick all the boxes: purpose, imagination, generosity, authenticity. I've just chosen to reference them here in the context of authenticity because they 100% live their story. Their story is about doing minimum harm to the environment, providing best possible products, outdoor products, but with minimum harm to the environment. They recognize that there is always some harm, so how do they minimize it? Anyway, 2017, the US government changed corporation tax, which meant all the biggest companies no longer had to pay, I think it was 35%, possibly reduced to 27%. The upshot for Patagonia as a business was that they saved $10 million. They chose not to save that, they chose to give it away to the sorts of organizations that are championing environmental concerns. So absolutely in the spirit of what they're all about as an organization. Small gestures also can support authenticity. Nationwide Building Society, a long-serving or long-standing client of ours, the essence of their purpose is around building society, building community. So when everything started to go downhill with regards to COVID, you would expect them to be 100% focused on their employees and their customers. However, they took the time out to ask us which of the individual creatives in our business have been working on their campaigns in recent weeks, helping them with their COVID communications. We provided those names and addresses, and each one of those individuals, about 7 individuals, all received a box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates with this note, which goes a long way to demonstrate authenticity in their purpose. When they talk about building society, it goes way beyond just them as a business. Authenticity is also about acknowledging that as humans, we don't always get it right. Very often we get it wrong. We are human. That is a human quality. It's about how then you respond to it when things don't go quite right. And that's about responding with honesty, integrity, transparency, and often good humor. A light-hearted touch can go a long way. KFC, when they ran out of chicken, probably couldn't have had a worse week, but they chose to respond in a way that actually strengthened the bonds that they had with existing clients and raised awareness and increased approval from those that weren't necessarily fans in the first place. So magnetic brands are super careful not to take themselves too seriously. They understand the appeal, if you like, of imperfection. And just a note of caution on authenticity, something we have seen a fair bit of recently, particularly in relation to the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. Authenticity is a very fine line. Even brands who historically tread it very on the right side of that can get it wrong. Gillette came under a significant amount of criticism for their support of the Me Too movement, not least because they still charge more money for women's razors than they do for men's razors. Even Nike, who work really hard to do the right thing, suffered some finger pointing with their "Don't Do It" campaign in support of Black Lives Matter, largely because at board level at Nike there is a distinct lack of ethnic and cultural diversity. So be mindful of it. You know, that is about walking the talk, ensuring that you do that. Anything you say, you substantiate in a meaningful way. So there we have it. Those are the 4 ever-present characteristics of magnetic brands, the muscles of magnetism. These are the muscles that create extraordinary and enduring appeal, attraction, loyalty, and resistance. Purpose, imagination, generosity, and authenticity. Human characteristics, all of which go beyond the product and can be developed and improved, thus meaning that any brand, your brand, has the potential to become magnetic. Just to finish, I suspect you will have noticed that there is something that connects these muscles of magnetism, the characteristics of magnetic brands. Aside from being human qualities that can be improved and can be developed, they're also good qualities, and that's because essentially magnetic brands are good brands, good in every sense. As well as making a profit, they fundamentally make a difference. And as a result, magnetic brands make the world a better place. So if you're not yet on the path towards magnetism, surely it's time you were. And if you need a guide on that journey, we'd be delighted to fulfill that role, and you know where we are. And that concludes the presentation. If anyone would like to talk further, obviously, as we said before, we are offering up an hour's brand strategy consultation. So just do drop me a line. Thank you all very much for listening. Back to Ash, I think.
Hi, Ali. Thank you very much for doing that. That was brilliant. Thanks for taking us through that again.
Pleasure.
For those that missed it or those that want to review, there's obviously loads to consume in that talk, lots of interesting facts, but where would you advise our visitors to crack on with? Where's the best place to start when applying those principles?
It's a fair question, because you know in 25 minutes there's only so much detail you can apply, and it is quite top level, and it's designed to kind of inspire and get people thinking a little bit differently. But when we get more practical with it, by and large, the best place to start is with your brand story. So, you know, that's the foundation for everything. So you need to understand what it is that you're all about before you can even begin to look at how you articulate and how you bring that to life. So think about your brand, your brand story. Think about why you exist, why you do what you do, beyond making money, obviously. And when you look at that, think, well, how clear is our purpose within that story? Are we talking about it in a way that really brings it to life? That's the imagination piece. Are we demonstrating where there's potential for greater generosity, where we can be actually making a net positive contribution to society? And be mindful of it. Look at it through the lens of authenticity as well. You know, this is our story. It's great, we're doing this is what we're trying to do, we're going to have this impact, etc. But are we really living up to that? So when it comes to the crunch, can we evidence where we're doing that, so it's not just hot air? So I would say start there, start with your story. And actually that's something I'm hoping to come back at some stage and talk about in more detail. So but good question, thank you.
We're here with open arms. We're looking forward to another inspiring talk from Ali, and that's exactly what that one was. So I'm sure the visitors are left ready to crack on and build their own story. So again, I'm going to take the chance to say thank you for presenting live, and obviously taking up your time to offer this recording to people that missed it. That's brilliant. And we look forward to seeing you at another one. I'll just repeat for people, we run these webinars monthly. So we've got one on the 13th of October. Following that, we're running one in the middle of November and the start of December. Ali and a bunch of other great speakers presenting totally new webinar topics will be joining me, and I hope you can too. So this is me signing off. Thanks very much for joining.
Me too. Thanks very much.